Well, as the temperatures.
Yeah. Oh, goodness.
Okay. As the temperatures start to get warmer and you start thinking about heading out to the beach with a good book, we have some suggestions as always. Rona Brinlee is back. She is the owner of Neptune Beach Bookmark. She has some good suggestions and an event featuring you.
That's
which
right.
is really exciting because she's got some good recommendations. But before we get to her event and some other events from some great authors who are traveling through town and stopping at your place,
yes,
let's go over here.
And it's good in a cold day, too, to snuggle up with a good book. It's not exactly
Isn't
beach
that
weather.
Weird, this nor'easter that's coming through?
So today would be a good day, too.
All right.
So Jennifer McVeigh, I read her first book, Leopard at the Door. It's set in Kenya in the 1950s, so after the war. And it's a great conversation in a fiction about the relationship between the British and the Africans and the Mau Mau. And is there any way to be a good colonial power or all the well-intended people, or is it just inevitable that there's going to be an uprising because there's just too much tension? And so you get some good history while you're reading a novel, so that's always a fun way to do it to me. I'd rather get it that way than...
Right. It's a 2-for-1 special.
It's a 2-for-1
You're learning
special.
something, but you're not working too hard. You're
That's
enjoying
right.
the process along the way.
That's right.
Okay.
And Nicholas Butler, I also loved his first book with Shotgun Love Songs. This one is The Hearts of Men. Isn't that a fun cover, like a little paper doll? And what I think is so fascinating about him is he talks about friendships between men. And that's very different than the kind of friendships that women...
Like a bromance. No, not so much a bromance? No.
It could be.
Jared, the floor director, is just impressed that I even knew that what a bromance was. Anyway, but so it's the relationships of men. How so?
In terms of how they form friendships, and this one is the story of two young boys in a camp in the 1960s, and they form an unlikely friendship that lasts for decades because one's very wealthy and one is not, and he comes back kind of scarred from the Vietnam War. And it's however decades their lives keep intersecting even as their kids come to the same camp. And so it's how they maintain that friendship, which really I think is different than how women maintain friendships and how we relate to each other.
So for the women it would be a good book to read just to get a unique perspective.
It would. That's what I love about it, because you know, I get a better understanding of something that's different for me.
Right. The Men Are From Mars is really an accurate statement.
It is different, you know. They yell at each other and think it's fun. We wouldn't talk for 6 months.
That's right.
We did that.
That is a true statement.
I know. And this one I just couldn't resist. Just look at that cover. It's so wonderful. And it's getting great reviews. Pacheco by Min Jin Lee. And this is a story that is kind of timely, too. It starts in the early 1900s, and a young Japanese girl gets pregnant, and so it's a disgrace to her family. I mean, she's Korean, and a Japanese minister comes and takes her off to Japan. And it's the life of someone from a different country growing up and starting a family in Japan and how she adapts. So I think that's an important question.
Well, that gives you a unique perspective on two different types of cultures.
It does, and again, it goes through decades, and so you get some time perspective of how long that takes to pull that off. So.
Okay, now one last one before we get to the author.
Homo Deus, this is nonfiction, and he's the author of Sapience, and in Sapience he explained how humans became dominant of the world and our planet. And this is what's the story for tomorrow? What's going to happen tomorrow? If we do indeed conquer famine and wars and plagues, what's going to be our big challenge? And it's the kind of book, you may agree, you may not agree, but it's going to start some great conversations.
There you go.
There you go,
okay,
which is always good.
This is me. Speaking of conversations, this would be one that I would absolutely want to make. You have some frosty malt beverages, sometimes a little glass of wine, maybe some food. But Rona recommends, so this segment is then brought to life at your bookstore.
Well, thank you. This is the 15th year we've partnered with the Jacksonville chapter of NOW to celebrate Women's History Month, and the 8th time we've done something called Rona Recommends, where I get up and pontificate about books by and or about women, so that we can celebrate that in the month of March. And then at the end, they let me talk about books I just like because it's my store and I can do that.
You can do that. For 15 years you've been doing it, so just keep up with the trend.
That's right.
Okay.
And then we have some authors. Tricia Booker, she's local. You might remember that name from Folio Weekly. She wrote a long time for them. The Place of Peace and Crickets is the story of her and her husband trying to have children, and they were not able to do that, and so they decided to adopt. And they have 3 children who were adopted internationally, and it's the process of not only getting the children, but trying to raise them, and some of the issues come up by how they were brought into the world.
Local writer, okay.
Right.
Randy Wainwright, you've had him on before. He's down in Miami area.
He comes all the time, and this is a Doc Ford. It's his 24th Doc Ford mystery, Mangrove Lightning, and it's the story that is haunted by a murder in 1925, and some people think there's a curse, and it has all his strange characters, Tomlinson, the sort of wacky character, and Doc Ford. So if you're missing Randy, this is the time that he comes back.
He's got a phenomenal story if you want to meet him. He was a fishing guide, right?
He was.
In Sanibel, just a fishing guide, and then he somehow had somebody go on one of his boats who was a publicist or something like that. He gave him a script, and 24 books later. Isn't that incredible?
Yes, he is, and he tells great stories about being a fishing guy. There's some stories that people probably don't want told, but no names, so it's okay.
Okay, all right, hide that part. And last but not least, because we got to go.
Greg Iles, he's never been to the Bookmark before. We're very excited. He's another New York Times bestselling author. Mississippi Blood is the end of his Natchez Burning trilogy, and he's been compared to a combination of Faulkner and J.D. McDonald, if you can imagine that. Amazing writing and that galloping kind of adventure and an insight into the South. So we're excited. Lots of good stuff.
Good deal. Well, thanks, Rona. As always, chock full of good stuff, and we appreciate you as always. And we're giving away some spending money for one viewer. If you would like to go to Rona's Place, $25 gift certificate to the Bookmark. Just text Bookmark to 25543 by 3 p.m. today. You must be 18 years or older to enter. One winner, as always, chosen at random, and you must come here to the station to pick up your prize.